Hello everybody and welcome to today's presentation. My study abroad program got canceled, what now? In this workshop we will talk about your re-entry experience and how to transition back with these unique circumstances. For this workshop it can be useful if you have a pen and paper to take notes and participate in our activity later. As well, if you have your re-entry packet, now would be a good time to take it out and use it to follow along. Don't worry if you don't have one, please reach out to the study abroad office and we can provide one for you. For an overview, we will first touch on impact and the different ways studying abroad can affect you. From there, we will unpack your experience to understand what you gained from your program. Following, we will touch upon how to reintegrate your experience and the current situation into your life. And lastly, we'll talk about some resources that can be helpful when reintegrating and then wrap up our conversation. To begin, we have to understand impact. We need to be aware of how impact can happen. While we all went abroad, our experience is like a fingerprint. No two are exactly the same. One of the reasons that can be include the length of stay. Some of you may have been abroad longer because before or after your program you continue to travel, while others may have had a shorter stay due to the length of the program. Your relationships with the host country and those within could influence your enjoyment. Maybe you found the best friend or significant other while abroad. Others may have found a second home with their host family or even made a professional connection in the classroom. These external factors can influence those internal factors. Did you find yourself changed by the culture? Were you open to trying new experiences or foods? Some people will discover something new about themselves, while others may not feel that same changing feeling due to how they consume their experience. It can be years later when they start to make those connections. In these current cases, personal factors are huge. You all came home in a manner that you could not have planned for. Each one came home to something different, whether that be complete self-isolation, unique financial circumstances, or having to go to work now. These all at the end of the day make up your experience and cannot be compared to past, current, or future students' experience. However, there is one big commonality. You all share this COVID-19 experience. The following are some examples that you may be experiencing. None of you returned to the United States the way you remember it. Suddenly, you can't leave your house, and if you do, you have to wear a mask and wash your hands more than you used to. When leaving, you may have not had the opportunity to say goodbye in the ways that you would have liked. Maybe you didn't get to write that goodbye letter or give that one professor a last thank you. Now you're forced to self-isolate while trying to process what has happened to you in the past couple of days or weeks. These emotions can vary widely, from shock to grief, and now you have to understand this alone. Some of you may be used to high physical contact or even came from a country that communicated on hugs and kisses, and now that is no longer allowed. You all went from independently living your life in your host country to now possibly living with a parent or guardian under their rules you are no longer accustomed to. And on top of all this, you are still expected to complete your academic work with the same expectations from Geneseo and your host country, which is probably now in a different time zone. One thing that is consistent is that you're not alone in this experience. Students all over the world and even in our own backyard at Geneseo are struggling with this. One way we can start to begin to understand this is through reverse culture shock. When students return, they usually experience a reverse culture shock. Similar to culture shock, but now in your home country, you typically experience a high of being home. We call this the honeymoon stage. Things feel familiar again, whether that be food or faces, or something as simple as the weather. Then one day you might experience a crisis. Things may have not been the way you remember it. Your friends are now talking about something cool that happened to them, or your favorite store went out of business. Things feel different, but you learn to adjust. You learn to recover by becoming aware that your home also evolved while you were gone, and things kept moving forward without you. That brings us to adjustment. You learn how to live with these new changes in your life and within yourself by incorporating all these evolutions. However, this may not be the case from you. Instead, many of you came home to a crisis, and with everyone in complete panic. Things are not the same anymore, and there was no time to celebrate the excitement of being home or seeing family and friends because you're not allowed to see them. Many of you can still be in crisis mode, and that is okay. Life as we typically know it has changed, and as if you heard many times, we're living this new norm. Some of you have already moved on to recovery and even adjustment. You've accepted what is and making do with these unique circumstances. It's okay though if you have not adjusted back. And there are ways that we can help you through that. On page 6 and 7 of the reentry packet, you can learn more about reverse culture shock and even map out your own experience. So why don't we break down this experience? The experiential learning model turns an experience into one that is digestible. This is great for studying abroad because you can decide how you want to break it down. The first part is the experience. Pick a moment you would like to reflect on, whether that be your experience on the whole from when you started thinking about studying abroad or when you found out you had to come back home. Pause this video now and write down that moment. When we lay out the moment, immediately we are overcome by emotions. Hurt, anger, happiness, or joy can sometimes prevent us from understanding the purpose or reasoning behind an experience. Pause the video now to identify the emotions you felt from your experience you chose. So why is this even important? Reflecting on these emotions can clear a so-called fog. Think more than what just had happened, but think about what you heard, what you smelled, or what you saw. You begin to ask yourself, was this emotion evoked? Or why did that mean something to me? Pause this video now and take a few seconds to see if you can put that experience into perspective. Lastly, we come to the what now. With the conclusions you have drawn from your reflection, think about how you can apply that into your life. Maybe you learned how adaptable you can be and now want to utilize that when transitioning into next stages of your life. Pause this video again and pick out a lesson or two from this experience. This is an exercise you can complete multiple times and learn something new about yourself and how you engage with your experience. You can also utilize this model for other experiences like your college experience as a whole or even your COVID-19 experience. Remember when we said your study abroad experience is like a fingerprint? There are many ways to unpack that to gain a deeper understanding that was unique to you. We can do this in numerous ways. If you refer back to your re-entry packet, turn to page 10. The self-disclosure guide is a general questionnaire that will make you think about your experience on different perspectives. If the previous activity was challenging for you, that's okay. Try out the self-disclosure guide to get you thinking about the program in other ways. On page 11, you will find statements describing many of the feelings that have been felt by SUNY Geneseo returnees. The questionnaire of what have you gained from your experience is a great way to identify specific skills you have gained and even expand, especially with your unique circumstances. Lastly, our questionnaire on impact identity, new you in our old world, on page 12 can help you navigate this new you. It asks us questions about your identity and how it's grown and changed. Now that we have identified the needs of your experience, it's time to turn it back out and give it a purpose. We typically encourage students to think about a plan. This may still work for you. In terms of personal and emotional processes, you would want to consider how you are dealing with that emotional stress being in this current situation. Take time to identify things that are causing you stress and decide how you will deal with it when it appears. Reach out to the resources like the Health and Counseling Center on campus to help you create that plan. In an academic reintegration, you may have found a new passion or something else you are interested in your field, and you may want to redirect your studies. Even during this pandemic, you may have found a new interest that excites you. It's important that you reach out to your advisor and make sure you are on track or moving in the direction you want. Especially with these changes, it's important you check in frequently to make sure nothing falls between the cracks from your host and home country. This, of course, impacts your professional development. Take time to consider what skills you learned abroad that you would want to expand upon that can help you in your career. For example, you may have learned a new language and now want to continue this. Work with an advisor, mentor, or the Career Center to help you develop this plan. Lastly, you may find yourself considering how to be more involved with your host country. You may notice that there were issues with things like homelessness in your host country, and you would like to help this population now. You can continue to do that work in your own community. Who are the people that can help you create these plans? There are many on SUNY Geneseo's campus that can help you through this. The multicultural programs and services can help you continue your experience by connecting you with diverse groups on campus. Counseling services can help you understand the emotional distress you may be feeling or can help you with coping methods during stressful times like today. Student volunteerism and community engagement office can help you continue the civic engagement piece of your plan by putting your newly gained skills back into the community. If you're still interested in connecting with international students or even living with them, the Residence Life Office can connect you. The Department of Career Development can also help you turn this experience into a professional game. For example, you may now have some skills on how to handle a crisis and would want to learn how to demonstrate that in a resume, cover letter, or interview. Lastly, the Study Abroad Office can be your go-to source for everything else. Despite these unfortunate circumstances, you may be interested in going abroad again or sharing your experience. You'd want to share with others what you learned. The office can help you navigate further your experience. They can also answer any other questions you may have on this presentation. Please refer to the re-entry packet for more ways to stay connected and even more resources to aid you through this experience. Thank you for joining us on today's presentation and good luck on your re-entry.